what's going on? Thanks for checking out the video and welcome to Keeping It Real Fishing. Today I'd like to show you a new introduction of colors from Rapala in the DT series and also in the Shad Rap series. It's a very cool addition. This is called the Rapala Live series, and as you can imagine it's taking the finishes to a more natural, more lifelike level. Let me show you the ones that I have here. Alright guys, we're going to be looking at a pumpkin seed finish in a DT4. I have the live bluegill in the DT6, and I picked up one of the Shad Raps. This is the SR Shad Rap 7, and that's in the live smallmouth. So let's take these out and take a closer look at what this Rapala live finish is all about. Alright guys, let's take a close look at what these lures look like. So here we're taking a look at that live pumpkin seed. Really great finish. And we're seeing this from other manufacturers as well. It's basically that photorealistic print that has been shaped and sized for this given lure, and it wraps perfectly around. And so rather than being a representative lure, and by that I mean, oh well, let's take a look at the bluegill. So here's their live bluegill. A representative coloration would be something like their previous bluegill, right? This has the traits that we would normally consider to be that of a bluegill, the general colorations, the lines, the actual bluegill. However, in the water, does this actually look like the living, real bluegill, or do they look actually like that? No. No, that color is way off in terms of reality. This looks so different, but in the water, this is getting close to actually what a bluegill looks like. There's a depth, a complexity, and it doesn't have such distinct colorations to it. This is like if like in old-time paintings or something, if you see somebody drawing the fish, whereas this is actually what it looks like in the water. Alright, so another thing I'd like to draw your attention to here, guys, is that Rapala has utilized something that they've had for a very long time. As far back as I can remember, going back to the original floating minnows, just the standard ones, they have this kind of raised, slight foiling of the finish, and you can probably see it there. You see like those little, almost looks like little scaling. Okay, it's found in the other two models as well. It's just a little bit more apparent here, and so that's pretty cool. In shallow enough water and in clear enough water, that's going to catch the light and disperse it a little bit. So that's very nice. I actually have a, here is one of the minnows in a perch color. You can see, if you have any Rapalas, if you've ever seen them in the store, they've often used this kind of slight foiling in their finish. The right angle that catches the light. You can see it there. Taking a look at the smallmouth. Again, guys, of course the theme is live. Not pungent, not loud, just trying to, as best they can, mimic the actual coloration of that fish in the water. So where would these excel? I think a lot of people would probably say in clear water, where these differences might be appreciated by the fish and could be the difference in between getting a strike and not. Say you're using a more representative lure. Say you're using something like, you know, different class of lure. This is a like a rattle trap style, but this is Matsuo's interpretation of a bluegill. All right, but in very clear water, even though this is moving fast, and you know we generally think that it's only getting into a second, they're going to think, oh, that is a bluegill. But in the right situations, having a lure that has that additional complexity and really looks like a bluegill, I think some people would put out the argument that that could be the difference. Alright guys, so this is the live series of baits. Another thing I really like about this is the fact that you can get these in any store. You know, when you go to the store, I'll just show you a box. Of course you're going to see it on the front, but you know, you have the designation. They're all called live and then whatever the model is. But Rapalas are not hard to find at all. And you don't even have to go to a dedicated sporting goods store to get them. You can find them in the back of some, you know, just random stores, and you know, Walmart by me has them. And so it's very cool that you can get a lure. The DT series is very ubiquitous. These are common. And to get a lure of this caliber with this kind of coloration, and it's not hard to find, And the Rapalas are not bargain bin lures, but they're certainly not expensive. So I think this is just a really, really nice progression in terms of offering fish just that much more of a lifelike option. And these should do really well in the water. The DT series and the Shad Rap series is an established line of products for Rapala. They've been around for a long time. They've caught lots of people, lots of fish. They've won tournaments. They're really, really great. These are all made of balsa. The only downside to this series, guys, and this has nothing to do with the live finish, but just in general, they tend to run, well, they are light because they are balsa. These two guys here are 5/16 of an ounce. This guy's a little bit heavier at 3/8 of an ounce, but you're really not going to get too much distance out of them on your typical bait casting gear. If you are fishing them on spinning and light line, you could probably do a little bit better. But to really get any distance, you have to go to a dedicated kind of finesse rig with a really light line, and you have to have a rod, kind of like almost like a medium light that really loads up well. So that's the only downside with these. Of course, you could always just cast them out and then let some line go and troll them out there as well. Alright guys, so that's the Rapala Live series. Let's take it to the water and see how they look actually swimming along in the water environment. So what's up guys, out here on the water with them. Just real brief, I want to show you what it looks like in the water. Have some nice underwater footage here for you. Been fishing them all day. You know, if you fished the Shad Rap or the DT, no surprises. The action is the same as any of the others you fished. Of course, the difference here is just in the finish. I'm on a very clear water lake, and as I alluded to on the tabletop, I think that's where these may pay dividends. They give you a sense of confidence. They give me a sense of confidence. I think really anybody, because as you're throwing it, you're thinking to yourself, you know, how could a fish not want to hit that? Because that looks like the actual thing that they eat. You know, after you and I are gone for the day, or whether it's late at night or sometime you're not there, when that fish chows down on a pumpkin seed, it's going to look like that. So my philosophy is, yeah, maybe the fish can snub its nose sometimes at chartreuse or white or all these other colors, but how can a fish get desensitized? How can it get conditioned to not eating this? Because if it did, then it wouldn't be eating the actual living organism. Now I know what you're thinking, you know, the color's there, but the action in the water is of course not a clone of how the real fish swims, but at least color-wise, as this thing is buzzing by real fast, like a fish just darting by in distress, I think these colors inspire a lot of confidence because we're mimicking the actual creature that it would be eating. These are both beautiful. I'm particularly fond of, let me put these things here behind your ear, aka on my tripod stand. I'm particularly fond of this guy right here. This is the DT6 model in the bluegill. And they just did an incredible job. Now that I got it off the tabletop, I have it here in the sunlight and seen it in the water. They just nailed it out of the park. That finish is perfect. It doesn't look like any of the bluegills you're going to see in packaging, but they nailed it for actually representing the bluegill coloration in the water. It's subtle, it has a depth and complexity, and the colors are just spot on. It just looks perfect. So that's pretty much it, guys. Another thing I alluded to in the tabletop, and I'll reiterate, these guys here are pretty light, at least the ones that I'm showing you. That Shad Rap 7, the DT4, and the DT6. This one casts well on what I'm using, and this one right here is an Okuma TCS Medium. They call it a Medium Plus, but it's really like a Medium Light, and that's what you need for these lighter ones. If you want to get any kind of distance, they're just not heavy lures. You have to have a rod that has a good amount of kind of flex and whip to it. Of course, the DT series and the Shad Rap series goes up and they get bigger. You go into the DT10, the DT, I think the 12, I know there's a DT14, and those are quite heavy. I think they go up to 3/4 of an ounce. But these small ones here, if you want to fish that more shallow water in that kind of, you know, 0 to 6 foot range, which is a very viable range for bluegill, just make sure that you have something with a little bit of whip in it so you can get some good distance.